My family asked me if I wanted to go with them to check out the fireworks on the 4th of July. I was 16 years old at the time, and I really didn't want to go. It's not that I had anything at all against fireworks, but I really wanted to go out drinking with my friend Matt. We figured that we would break into the abandoned school building area. Lots of teenagers would do that, and it was a well-known place for drinking and smoking weed, where the police would leave you alone. I met up with Matt, and he had scored some weed, too. I didn't smoke all too often, but every once in a while I would. He was a bit worried that, being the 4th of July, quite a lot of people would have broken into the school. Whenever we had gone before, we had never really come across any other teenagers. Like normal, though, we snuck through an opening in the fence that surrounded the place. At that point, everything still seemed fine. There wasn't really anything to indicate that anyone else would be there. We went behind the building, where there was a broken door we would use to get in. Still, there was no indication yet that we weren't alone. We found a small room and began smoking the weed and drinking a little bit. It was really nice, actually. We weren't too far away from the fireworks display that we couldn't hear the fireworks going off in the sky, though. We were probably in there for over an hour, when suddenly Matt gave me this really weird look. "Hey, did you hear that?" he asked me. I told him that I could only hear the fireworks. He shook his head and told me that wasn't what he meant. "No, I think I heard something in here." I thought maybe he was just enjoying the weed a little too much. He insisted, though, that he'd heard something in another room. When I suggested it was probably just more teenagers drinking, he decided we should go look for them and see if they wanted to hang out with us. I didn't really care too much for that, but I decided to just go ahead and go with him. We were walking down the hallway. I still hadn't heard anything yet, but Matt even told me again that he could hear some noises. I began to think that maybe Matt was just messing with me, or trying to scare me or something. I had to brace myself, waiting for him to try and do a big scare. But then I heard something too. It was a firecracker. It had to be. I may have even heard it before, but mistaken it for something from the display. There had to be someone in one of the other rooms, letting off some sort of fireworks. No big deal, really. Fireworks were illegal for just anyone to have. The displays were all done by the city. We came here for illegal drinking and illegal smoking, so it made sense that someone might come here for illegal fireworks as well. So we found the room. There was an open doorway, and we could see a little bit of light coming from it. We decided to go through and introduce ourselves. Matt told me he'd offer them weed so they didn't think we'd narc on them or anything. Once we looked in the doorway, though, we froze. There were 2 people in the room, but they were dressed as clowns. One was sitting on the floor with a bunch of firecrackers in his hand. The other was standing straight up, facing the door. He had this huge sparkler in his hand. You know how when someone has a sparkler, they write words in the air? He wrote, "Hi," with the sparkler to us. The other one quickly lit a firecracker and threw it at us. We turned and ran out. It was too odd. We remembered previously when that whole clown thing was going on a year earlier. We had seen many YouTube videos of clowns doing weird and dangerous things. We were terrified at the strangeness of what we'd encountered and what they might do. We looked back once, and it seemed the clowns had not come out of the room to follow us, but we didn't stick around there to find out. We left the building in a big hurry. I don't know, it didn't seem like we were in terrible danger. Like I mentioned, the clowns didn't seem to try to follow us. But who knows when you see something that weird? This is a pretty freaky thing that happened to me a while back, on the 4th of July. The people who live in my neighborhood tend to go really all out during this time. For days at a time, they're just letting off tons of fireworks. But on the 4th, everyone brings out the big guns, and they do them all night long. That night, I was home alone. My parents had gone to visit some relatives to celebrate the 4th. I stayed home, being a teenager. It was always great when you have the house to yourself for a while. I didn't have any parties or anything crazy like that, though. I just took a few days to myself to watch TV and eat a lot of junk food. On the 4th, it was actually a bit louder than usual. The fireworks had started during the day. I couldn't tell what the exact fireworks being used were. I just knew they were extremely loud. When it gets to be nighttime, most of the people in the neighborhood go out onto their porch to look at, watch, or set off their own fireworks. I really didn't care too much for that sort of thing, though. I just remained in the living room and tried to do a bit of reading. An hour into nightfall, it was really loud. The fireworks were near constant. I imagine this is what it might have sounded like to have been in the Blitz in World War II. I couldn't watch TV, and it made it difficult for me to concentrate on reading or anything else really. As I was sitting there, I heard a noise that was definitely not a firework, though. It actually sounded like some glass breaking in my basement. Immediately, I looked up from my book. The first thought I had was that someone was setting off a firework too close to my home and had hit and broken that window. We had one of those basements that was not really underground on one side, instead sitting on the side of a hill. I was worried that the house might catch on fire, so I got up and ran to get our fire extinguisher. I grabbed it, got up, and ran over to the basement door. During all of this, the fireworks were still going off non-stop, of course, so it was a bit nerve-wracking. I ran down the stairs to our fully finished basement, only I didn't see a fire. I flipped on the light and almost fell onto my ass when I saw someone standing there. There was a broken window, and he was over by my dad's bar. He was grabbing bottles of liqueur and stuffing them into a bag. He of course noticed when I turned the light on. Turning around, he saw me, and at first he did nothing. He was a really big and scary-looking dude. I didn't know exactly what to do. He didn't exactly have that problem, though. He immediately started moving towards me, brandishing one of the bottles. Fortunately, even though I was hesitant, and he was bigger than me, I remembered that I'd brought a fire extinguisher down to the basement with me. Acting to what seemed like impulse, I pulled the lever and sprayed the man with the hose. It stopped him in his tracks, and almost knocked him right off his feet. What was important was that it gave me time to run back up the stairs, close the basement door, and lock it. I called the police immediately, telling them someone had broken in. They came, but by that point the guy was long gone. He had still stolen several bottles of alcohol, though. The police filed a report, but they never caught the guy. Thankfully, though, he never came back either. When I was in junior high school, I had some problems with a bully named Brett. I never knew exactly why he picked on me, really. I wasn't nerdy or unpopular or anything, but for some reason this guy just really didn't like me, and he was much bigger than I was as well. So even when he tried to get me to fight him, I always avoided it. I'll just give you a couple examples so you know what kind of guy Brett was. Once, while I was sitting in homeroom, the teacher wasn't there yet. As I was sitting there doing my work, I suddenly felt something hard hit me right on the back of the head. He had thrown a book at me from several rows back. Once he had a friend of his hold me and squeezed a water balloon all over me. He went around telling everyone that I'd had a wet dream. Yeah, that one is kind of weird, but a lot of stupid junior students laughed at it. I was happy when summer came around. He didn't live by me, so I knew I wouldn't have to see him for at least 3 months. The first month of vacation went by like a dream. I played baseball in a local league, and we had been winning nearly every single one of our games. Our manager wanted to take us out for pizza, and then to see fireworks after the game on the 4th of July. Well, we won our 4th of July game, so the pizza tasted extra great, and then afterward we went to the park to catch fireworks. It was pretty crowded that day. We put down some blankets and all got ready for the show. As I was sitting there, though, I noticed Brett and one of his buddies, specifically the one that had held on to me during that whole water balloon thing, advancing in my general direction. We were all still in our baseball uniforms, so I tried to pull my cap down a bit in the front to make it seem like I was someone else. I didn't really think Brett would do anything. Nothing when I was there with all of my team members and our manager and coaches at least. But still, I didn't even want him to know I was playing on a baseball team. He did notice me, though. He looked right at me, then elbowed his friend and motioned toward me. They both laughed. I assumed it was because of my baseball uniform. I don't know. He seemed like the kind of guy who would find it funny that I played, but they didn't give me any problem at that time. They walked by kinda close to us. He kept trying to make eye contact with me, but I did everything I could to avoid him. I was unsettled for a while, but once the fireworks started up, I quickly forgot about it. It was an amazing display, and I always found it quite patriotic and fun. Well into the display, I even completely forgot I had even seen Brett there to begin with. If you've been to fireworks displays, you know that they often end with a few minutes of constant fireworks. It's quite loud, and quite amazing as well. Many of us were standing up during this part, although we had been sitting for the majority of the display. During the finale, I felt something push behind me. I didn't fall over because it wasn't too forceful. However, when I turned around, I saw Brett and his friend standing there. Immediately, my face was hit with a burst of light and pain. I shut my eyes tight because of the pain, so I couldn't see what was happening at first. I found out later, though, that Brett had lit a Roman candle and sprayed it directly into my face. In spite of the sound of the fireworks, I could hear what happened next. Our team manager ran and grabbed Brett and yelled at one of the other coaches to get park security. Another coach grabbed me and tried frantically to see if I was okay. Fortunately, I had shut my eyes in time so that there was no permanent damage to them. I had some little burns all over my face, but that was all, thankfully. Brett spent some time in juvenile hall, although I don't really think it did him any good. He was still the exact same asshole he was when he got out. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. All the copyright strikes are removed now, so we can get back to business as usual. I'm sorry I haven't been posting as much lately. I've just been really distracted with Monster Hunter Rise, I'll say. But I will get back to posting normally as soon as possible. Thanks to my friend KillerOrangeCat for letting me use the stories from his subreddit in this video. He's been helping me a lot by letting me use some of his stories lately, so be sure to check him out. I'll leave a link to his stuff in the description, and he does really good scary stories as well. They're all really unique, and most of them are original because he gets them himself personally through doing interviews and stuff, so if you guys would like to send in a story or you have a story you'd like me to read, links to all of my social media will be in the description below, including links to my Gmail, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the tagline what the name of the story is, the type of story it is, if it has one, and how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. If you're curious about the art used in this video, I have links to my artist friend in the description below. He makes really good stuff and he does commissions, so be sure to check him out if you like his stuff. And as always, links to the music used in the video will also be in the description in the order which it appears in. Thank you guys so much for watching, not too many updates this time, and I hope you guys have a great day.